I wanted to highlight the fact that there are some ethical concerns with the new Democrats coming to town, or the old Democrats coming to town and taking on additional power. I talked about the ethics process, which is largely broken in the Senate. We have a pending complaint we're still waiting to hear from the Senate on Cory Booker. Remember Cory Booker? Cory Booker, Mr. Spartacus? He proudly highlighted the fact he was releasing documents he was not allowed to release under Senate rules and given to the Senate under the provision given to the Senate by the White House with the specific provision that they're not be released improperly. And he didn't care. He released them because he thought he could get away with it. And the release of such documents, according to Senate rules, ought to result in his expulsion from the Senate. And this is why the Ethics Committee doesn't want to act on it. We also have a complaint pending against Maxine Waters. You may remember Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters is now going to chair the Financial Services Committee of the House. Very powerful position, overseeing the banks and the financial services industry. It's basically the old House Banking Committee. We filed an ethics complaint because she was calling for violence against the Trump cabinet. Specifically, she said, if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them and you tell them that they are not welcome anymore, anywhere. So this person, we filed an ethics complaint. Obviously, that doesn't reflect credibly on the House. You violate House rules when you threaten and incite violence against other government officials. Of course, Maxine Waters has a troubled ethics history as it is. She helped shepherd funds to a bank called United One that Judicial Watch had pursued with the Ethics Committee that was tied to her husband. Of course, we didn't get the money back, I don't think. So she has already abused her perch as a powerful member of that Financial Services Committee once before. And yet she's being brought in as chairman without a peep from the press. Who's watching these members of Congress? Judicial Watch is. We file ethics complaints. We expose what the government's up to. We exposed how John McCain, for instance, was behind and pushing for IRS abuses, his staff member telling Lois Lerner to engage in financially ruinous audits, Republican or Democrat alike. And of course, we also have a complaint pending against Adam Schiff, who's the incoming chairman of the Intelligence Committee, for illicitly confirming classified material, which he's not allowed to do as an Intelligence Committee chairman. These were conversations that were classified between the Russian ambassador and General Flynn. Remember the conversations Flynn ultimately had to plead guilty to lying about? Which I don't think he lied about, but that's a whole other segment. And Schiff, unlawfully, it looks like, and in contrary to House rules, said those, confirmed those conversations. Now the left went after Nunes, Devin Nunes, the former chairman. Now I think he's ranking member, the heroic member of the House who exposed a lot of that corruption by falsely accusing him of this conduct, when in fact it was actually Adam Schiff who unethically and maybe illegally put out publicly classified information. House Ethics Committee hasn't acted on that complaint either, even though it's pretty straightforward. And what's with the Maxine Waters complaint? Is inciting violence and encouraging, pushing back members of the cabinet in public spaces when they're trying to get their gas or when they eat in a restaurant? And we've seen instances of that actually happening. members of the cabinet and other top officials in the Republican Party in the House and the Senate? Does the Ethics Committee have a problem figuring out whether that comports with House rules or not? Senator Booker said, I'm breaking Senate rules in releasing these documents. The Senate Ethics Committee hasn't acted yet. So we're going to hear a lot of noise about Democrats on the Hill investigating the Trump administration. And I don't believe the Trump administration should be immune from investigation. We have more lawsuits against the Trump administration than anyone in Washington, D.C. or in the country trying to get documents out. There's no one in court more against the Trump administration trying to demand transparency from this administration's agencies. No one. By far, we are the #1 filer of Freedom of Information Act lawsuits to figure out what's going on in our government against the Trump administration. So I don't want any lectures from the left or the media about, oh, we need to investigate the Trump administration. We are investigating Trump administration. They don't like what we're investigating because it's focused on the deep state, but we're investigating. So when the House Democrats ask questions of the Trump administration, remember they're immune from the same types of questions because of the Freedom of Information Act. And when there are substantial ethical concerns raised, they don't want to pursue them. Because when these ethics committees refuse to act, it's not because there's a substantial issue with the underlying complaint. It's because, as I say, the committees are split half and half, and unless they get at least one member of the opposite party to move forward on a complaint, it's not going to go anywhere. So you got a chore. I would suggest you do the following. You call your House members and your Senate members. You tell them what you think about the wall. We still have a crisis on the border, by the way. Your lives are being put at risk because of the inability or unwillingness of the Congress to fund basic security measures like a wall on the border. Let them know what you think about that. Let them know what you think about the fact there's no transparency on the Hill. Let them know what you think about the fact there's no ethics enforcement of any significant note on the Hill. I mean, we go through the process. I recognize this process is not perfect, but at least we go through the process to hold them to account. And I'm asking you to follow up with your elected members of Congress. Call them up, 202-224-3121, and let them know what you think about their failure to enforce ethical rules with their own members, their failure to defend you on the wall, and their failure to be transparent and accountable to you, the American people.